We are less than 6 full months into Joe Biden's presidency, and his tax plans are already destructive for small businesses, family farms, and small real estate investors all over the U.S. Now, President Biden is seeking higher taxes on real estate transactions with gains of more than $500,000, which with farmland prices and home prices is very little nowadays. A target aimed directly at the heart of small real estate investors, family farmers, and owner-occupied businesses, in combination with his plans to eliminate step-up basis on the resolution of estates. The Biden tax proposal will greatly increase the cost of farmland and thus food prices, property prices, and rental costs in some markets. And that's in addition to central bankers creating trillions of currency units all over the globe, chasing asset prices, chasing commodity prices, and China stockpiling commodities, although it seems that China may be taking a break from stockpiling some commodities as there's too much corn right now outside of Chinese ports. I covered that in the last week or so. And then also there's draconian commodity price controls that the Chinese government is attempting to implement. We'll see how successful they are. Although lumber prices have collapsed by 40% recently, so that may be a sign that China's draconian commodity price controls are somewhat successful, because housing starts here in the US are booming. Housing prices are still going up here in the US. So Biden's main target is the 1031 tax exchange, if you're not familiar with that, which delays real estate owners and real estate investors here in the US from paying taxes when property is sold. The Congressional Joint Committee on Taxation estimated that 1031 tax exchanges may save investors only $41.4 billion in taxes from 2020 to 2024, according to CNBC. That seems like a good amount of money to me, and that seems like they're drastically underreporting it. But the economic benefit of 1031 exchanges to small investors and rural communities is far greater. Roughly a third of all commercial real estate transactions involved 1031 tax exchanges in small communities, and thereby preserve important wealth that supports communities that have small businesses and farms. Biden's anti-capitalism, anti-small business tax experts, here's the logic that they claim. The logic in terms of raising tax revenue behind the Biden tax proposal is also deeply suspect. According to his blog article on May 17th, and I'm taking a lot of the material from this article from and also adding some of my own, from Christopher Whalen. He is an institutional bank analyst. He does research work for hedge funds and institutional investors on the mortgage industry, the banking industry, and a lot of tax laws. Quote, according to a study by professors David Ling and Milena Petrova, nearly 88% of exchanged properties are sold after only one round, and that would negate the 1031 tax exchange, according to their research. I totally disagree with that. I know a lot of real estate investors that have used the 1031 tax exchange for many years, sometimes decades. So I think this research is suspect. Fortunately, there are some ways around the Biden administration's social engineering via the tax code. For example, the landowner can contribute the land into an LLC or limited liability company that builds the houses as a single-family rental, avoiding recognition of capital gains taxes. I'm sure there are other ways if you can hire a tax attorney or tax accountant, but unfortunately in this stagflate tax lie environment where there's a lot more inflation, I don't know if you saw this on the Twitter for the White House, but just in the last 24 hours, the White House was putting out insane inflation propaganda about how your July 4th barbecue has no inflation, how food prices have kept going down, how ground beef is down 8% from a year ago. Total bogus bullshit. Okay, this is complete and total stagflate tax lie, economic propaganda on the lie part. This is even worse economic propaganda than the Consumer Price Index or CPI, what the White House put out about how your July 4th barbecue will have more food for less money. It will have, unless you are not eating meat or you're going to eat bugs or you're going to eat Beyond Meat, your July 4th barbecue will have less food for even more dollars. Trust me, I just went to the grocery store late last night to get my barbecue meat for the holiday, for the July 4th holiday, for the weekend. So finally, as I wrap up this short little video, I want to mention my friend Carol Ross' new book out, and it covers a lot of these topics. It's called The War on Small Business, How the Government Used the Pandemic to Crush the Backbone of America. So that new book is available on Audible audiobook and also in paperback or ebook or Kindle. It's available on all the platforms, so I highly recommend that. Carol is very smart. She's a great author. She also wrote my favorite balanced and realistic entrepreneurship book, which tells the cold, hard, sobering truth about how difficult entrepreneurship is and how it is not all unicorns and rainbows. Trust me, it is very, very hard running a small business, especially by myself right now and dealing with YouTube censorship. And her book is called The Entrepreneur Equation, Evaluating the Realities, Risks, and Rewards of Having Your Own Business. That book was written in 2011, and it is my favorite entrepreneurship book. I interviewed her years ago about it. I still recommend it to anyone who's serious about entrepreneurship. And when I talk about stagflate tax lie and how people are going to have to grow their income to offset stagflation or worse and taxes, this is one of the top books that I recommend. So Carol's new book, I'm sure it's going to be very, very good. I'm sure it's going to be filled with a lot of interesting stories and facts, and I'm going to be working hopefully in the next month on getting her on for an interview to talk about her new book. Because unfortunately, you know, people are going to have to hustle. They're going to have a side hustle. A lot of bricks and mortar businesses over the last 12 to 15 months got hammered to the point of either driven to the brink of bankruptcy or very, very close to it, and it's just going to be a mess. That's also creating supply problems. So there's all this currency and credit chasing fewer amounts of goods and services in the real economy. Finally, if you like content like this and want to help keep content like this free so it doesn't all end up behind a paywall, or if you want more in-depth research, content, financial education, and analysis that I can't provide in these free videos that are far more extensive in articles behind the paywall over on my Patreon. It is only $5 a month to sign up for my Patreon. I think it is the lowest cost of any of the high quality content providers in my space. There is over 170 articles, charts, and audio podcasts behind the paywall. A lot of in-depth articles on a lot of global macro topics, companies, and sectors. In the last 6 or so weeks, there's 14 new articles, and I just came up with a 15th one in the last couple hours. I think I'm going to talk about how these higher oil prices, so not only are oil investors going to benefit, but these higher oil prices are also going to cause even more inflation, even more stagflation, besides transportation costs, into cost of goods sold and the global supply chain. And I'll show that with some charts and graphs. There's also the 45-minute long audio interview with Sandstorm Gold CEO Nolan Watson, exclusive for patrons. And then I have an extensively long Sandstorm Gold article that just came out in the last couple days about their new $138 million deal for immediate cash flow, for about $11 or $12 million per year in immediate cash flow. So Sandstorm Gold is now cash flowing at about $9 million per month in pure free cash flow. It's a cash flow machine that the stock market really is not recognizing right now. So definitely check out my Patreon, and if you don't like it, you can always cancel. It's the cost of a bad cup of coffee, although I think you're really going to like it. I think the value behind the paywall is worth way, way, way more than $5 per month.